What in the world is going on with McLaren's team orders, and are we going to see this continue up until Abu Dhabi and the season finale? With just 8 races to go in the championship battle separated by just 31 points, McLaren finds themselves playing the fairness game between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Let's dive into the implications of this, why this could be an issue, but also why this actually could be a good thing down the line. Welcome to this episode of Track Limits. My name is John, the motorsports enthusiast, and if you are new here, welcome to my show here on ATYL Media. This is a Formula One based show, and today I'm specifically talking about McLaren and what they are doing when it comes to their drivers. The battle between Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris has been pretty harmonious, if you want to use that verbiage, because they have essentially been 1A and 1B. There hasn't been a true number one driver in McLaren this season. It's one of the first times we've seen this in history. You know, in Formula One, we are used to the intense team battles. When you see a team that is outperforming everybody else, typically it's going to be driver versus driver for that team. But for McLaren, they are giving both of their drivers a fair and equal chance to compete. Now, going into this weekend's Azerbaijan GP in Baku, we are looking at only 8 races left until we have the end of the season. Now, based off of this season, they've dominated almost every single race. But with a 31-point gap, what is the likelihood of Lando catching up or Oscar falling off? Now, let's say for the next 8 races, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri both finish 1-2. Lando Norris has to finish 5 out of the next 8 races in first, where Oscar finishes in second, for Lando to pass Oscar in the points. Now, on the flip side, that means Oscar Piastri has to at least win 4 out of the next 8 races to secure the championship. So essentially, for Lando Norris to win this championship, he has to win 5 out of the next 8. And for Oscar Piastri to win the championship, he has to win 4 out of the next 8. Now, when it comes to the constructors, we are in absolutely rare territory. McLaren can clinch the Constructors' Championship if they do one of these two things: finish 1-2 or finish 1-3. And McLaren is in pretty rare air because we have never seen a constructor win this early in the season ever. Literally ever. Now, with this whole fairness game being played by McLaren, you have to look at potentially what could happen if they continue this throughout the rest of the season. Let's say they're trying to get this championship battle as close as it can be going into the last race. Essentially, whoever wins the last race will win the championship. Is the person who actually executes the best in the last race the deserving champion? And that's what I think is at risk here, is the merit behind the World Drivers' Champion this year. McLaren has done something that I personally am not a huge fan of, is playing the fairness game between both drivers. At some point in the season, we may see it this weekend, you have to let them battle it out themselves. You have to stop dictating positions based off of things that happen in the pits or things that happen in strategy. I understand the team battle. I get that. They can secure that easily this weekend. And hopefully, after they secure that team battle, they will let both of those drivers just go at it and not have any team orders. But will that actually happen? Probably not. It looks like they're trying to shape this up into a championship battle at the end of the season where it's literally determined by whoever can finish ahead. So somewhat similar to what we've seen in the NASCAR Cup Series. So I think the merit of this championship is entirely at risk. Now, who do I think deserves it? Purely off of stats, performance, and what they've been able to execute in the race, Oscar Piastri. I think Oscar Piastri deserves the championship. But with 8 races to go, there's a pretty slim margin of error. Now, what about some of the other drivers, though? What about Max Verstappen? Can he spoil this little papaya party that's happening between Oscar and Lando? Well, he can, but a lot has to happen. Essentially, both McLarens have to finish 4th or worst in every single race until the end of the season, so 8 more races, and Max has to win out for Max to be able to catch Lando Norris or Oscar Piastri. So is a Max Verstappen championship possible? Yes, but I don't see McLaren finishing outside of the top 4 every single race for the next 8 races. That would just be catastrophic. So the question is, what is McLaren going to do? Because at this point, the whole season has come down to, okay, let's be fair for both drivers. Let's get both of our drivers in a chance to win. What could we see happen this weekend? I think with them being so close to the Drivers' Championship, I think they should start letting them battle further on, earlier in the season. But I think this is the one race where we're going to say, we are going to let the drivers dictate everything. Whatever happens will happen with strategy, with pit stops. Doesn't matter. The drivers are going to dictate everything. We are not going to make a team order based on a bad pit stop or a slow pit stop or a strategy that went wrong. We are in a position, we are going to win this Constructors' Championship. Let's put our drivers in the position to where they can battle it out themselves to get that merit back into this, because that's where we're at this point. I think the merit behind the championship is slightly skewed. So I want to know, because it's going to be either Oscar Piastri or Lando Norris, unless, absolutely catastrophe happens. Do you think that whoever wins this drivers' championship this year is as deserving as years past? I think no. I think that some of the merit has been taken away because points have been decided by the team. And I firmly believe that you have to have a 1 and you have to have a 2. Now, you can have a point where you're trying to better the team overall, but it does look like that there is a chance to where it's going to come down to the last race. And what are they going to do? Like, are they going to keep this up? Now, I'm curious, do you think that this is good or bad for Formula One? I'm not a huge fan of it, to be honest. I'm not a huge fan of, the team dictating who's going to win a race or who is going to finish ahead of another car purely for the fairness of the team when you are that far ahead of everybody else in the constructors. And I know you're talking about the individual places and the drivers. I get that. But Max is pretty far back. You would have to have Lando have some DNFs, essentially, for Max to catch up to a capacity where he could battle Lando. I'm not a huge fan of this. I'm not a huge fan of playing it at this point. And I think at this point in the season, I think it's well overdue. They need to let these guys battle and not dictate the finishing positions or dictate who's going to be ahead on any given weekend. I think you have to let them drive and let the drivers dictate who is the best. And I want to know, too, who do you think is going to win this weekend in the Azerbaijan GP in Baku? Absolutely amazing circuit. I think it could be Max Verstappen. I think they got something figured in with the car. I don't know what kind of upgrades are going to be brought to this weekend's race besides performance upgrades, but once those release, that will be interesting to read. Let me know who's your pick to win this weekend. And that wraps up this week's episode of Track Limits. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of the content here on ATYL Media with all the creators we have going on. With NHRA, we have IndyCar, NASCAR, short track racing, and Formula One. And as always, I'll see you on the next one when we break down the Azerbaijan GP and if McLaren is still going to play this fairness game and see what happened there. See you then.